Hello, it's Red Talk, episode 2. Today I wanna kind of talk about some of the new music I've been listening to, and some of the smaller artists I think maybe should be getting a little bit more recognition, and maybe some of the bigger artists that I feel like are getting a little bit more recognition than they deserve. But yeah, let's jump right into it. First of all, the maybe my favorite album of the year so far has been a new Dean Spencer album, and I've been listening to him for a minute now. I've been listening to him since Soap came out. If anybody's heard that single, but he was getting a lot of coverage around then. A lot of comparisons to like Earl Sweatshirt, but he really kind of went into his own after that project. And even with that project, he kind of was going into his own sound where it wasn't exactly comparable to Earl Sweatshirt anymore, and he kind of formed his own sound, which was a lot lighter, a lot more uplifting instrumentals. The lyrics were a lot more positive, at least for the most part. As we see with Earl, he tends to sit more on that more depressive side outside of his newer material. But yeah, that new Dean Spencer album, "Pain in the People Around Me," it's really a great project front to back. But a few of my favorite tracks on there, "All My Prayers" with Sly Cooper, "New" I really like. "Day One, Hour One" might be my favorite song of the year. And then "Rain Man." Those are my favorites out of the project, but really the whole thing it's worth listening to front to back if you like rap at all. I think it's really worth a listen. Another album or EP or tape, whatever you want to call it, that I've been listening to is the Coffee Project from Saba, and that has another one of my contenders for song of the year with "Looking for Parking." It just really scratches that itch for me, that catchy hook, that instrumental. It all comes together, and it's really not what I look for out of a Saba track, but it really scratched an itch I didn't know that he was capable of scratching. I have to commend him for that. That hook is just infectious. And few other standouts from that track list: "High Tides" with Max Moore and Itachi. Just another solid project that I think is worth checking out. Outside of that, I of course have to touch on the Esta Kid project, Rebel. Um, it's really hard for me to put into words how I feel about it. It feels There's something off about the project that I can't really put down. The rapping is of course solid. The production of course is solid, but there's something about it that feels very manufactured, that feels very ingenuine, that I can't put my finger on, that makes it hard to enjoy. I get the same feeling with somebody like Tu Hollis, where you can just tell that there's a lot of people helping them behind the scenes, and for some reason that just rubs me the wrong way. Maybe I'm being a hater or whatever, but I'm fine with being a hater. You know, if I can't get into something for a certain reason, then I think that reason's valid. I think something being genuine is very important to me when it comes to music. It's not fun to root for somebody that kind of was going to succeed no matter what. I don't want to get into it too much, but everybody knows what I mean, and I think this generation's is pretty good at sensing when something's ingenuine and when something's manufactured and when something's just a label giving a certain artist a really big push. And the sad thing is artists like Dean Spencer, he kind of touches on it on this project, just forever being looked at as that guy that's, oh, he's next up, and then they're never up, even though they're making music that is very well capable of being that up. You know, they're very, very in tune with the music that they're making, and they're very dedicated to the music that they're making, and the music is coming out good. So why aren't they getting the push that they deserve? Why do they need a label to get the push that they deserve when these labels aren't helping to make music better? They're really helping to make music more palatable, which in my opinion makes it worse, because I've said it before and I'll say it again, music is good because it makes you feel an emotion that another art form can't make you feel, or just simple words can't make you feel. If the music can't make you feel an emotion that nothing else can make you feel, then I don't really think it's all the way worth it. Yeah, which leads me into discussing the next song that I have coming out. I think I'm gonna have it come out next Friday, which is Just Like You. It's just about wanting to be viewed a certain way when you view another person that certain way, because that person from your viewpoint is perfect. Well, they might not be perfect. From your viewpoint, they are, so that's how you want to be viewed. And I think that's a big motivation for religion, is accepting that you can't be that perfect person or that perfect thing, is breaking down yourself and looking at your faults and your flaws and saying, you know, that's what makes me, is these flaws and these mistakes. I can't be a perfect person, but we all want to secretly be that. We all want to be perfect, but deep down we all know that we can't be perfect. And even that person that you think is perfect, whether it be a spouse or a parent or a family member or a friend, or even a religious figure in certain senses, you know, nobody's perfect. No person is perfect. You know, even saints make mistakes. You know, it's just the way that life is, and it's just a simple fact of life is we can't be perfect. So that song I really tried to encapsulate what it feels like to have that emotion, and hopefully I did an all right job. I probably will not get the feedback to know if I did a good job, but it works for me, so hopefully it works for somebody else. But yeah, hopefully somebody can give me some feedback on that in the comments, or shoot me a message or whatever. But yeah, I hope it makes somebody feel a little bit of something, even if they get mad and think it sucks. If you think it sucks, then comment and say that it sucks and tell me to stop. So yeah, please do that. I want to shout out, almost at 200 subs here. We're at 170 something last time I checked on the turlet. So yeah, thank you for doing that. I know a lot of you have come from shorts. Not a lot of you are listening to my music, which is, it's all right, whatever. It'll eventually lead to you listening to my music, I'm sure. Or you'll listen to my music and then be like, well, I liked your shorts, but your music fucking stinks. That's all right too. Keep going, you know. Just find music that you do like then. That's all right. Yeah, another thing I want to touch on is just what kind of motivates me. I really like to think that everybody is meant for more than just being here and doing the basic things. Like, nobody was born on this earth to type numbers into a computer, and nobody was born on this earth to clean shit off of a toilet seat. You know, we're all meant for something, I think personally. So music is that thing that's always felt like what I'm supposed to do, and maybe it's kind of a joke and maybe I'm not good at it, but I like to think that I am, and I like to think that that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's my biggest motivator. I just want to do that. I couldn't really care less about the money at the end of the day, having enough to live and do it full time would be nice, but if I have to work a full-time job like I have been, then I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm gonna keep making music. I'm gonna keep yapping. Um, yeah, it's a long life. So if you don't do what you love doing, then what are you doing? Nothing, nothing. And there's plenty of distractions to distract you from doing what you love. I trust me. I've come into contact with many of them, many, 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 and it's kind of almost funny to me how um, there's entire groups of people that their whole job is dedicated to figure out how to get you pulled away from the things that really should matter to you, whether that be your passion, your art, your family, your significant other, your friends, yourself. Even they want to detach you from yourself and make you this other other type of being that lives to funnel your money into them. I participate in it more than I would like to admit, but with video games and TV shows and sports, and these things are fun and they're nice to distract yourself with sometimes and take yourself out of it. But if you don't face real life, and if you don't put your time into these things that are real, that do mean something, then your life's going to end up kind of meaningless. And I think that's kind of the issue we've run into as a world, is people putting all their time and their effort and their energy into things that don't really matter. And it's sad to see, because my favorite art form, which is music, second being film, I've seen it over the years. These things get the soul sucked out of them very slowly, where they're turned into a commodity and not what they really should be about, which is disheartening, because since the beginning of time, music's been thought of as something that everybody should know how to do, and everybody should practice and create. And you saw it with like the teachings of Plato. He thought everybody should be trained in music no matter what, and everybody should be trained in dance. And I think that's important to remember, because we're not brought up that way. We're brought up to be trained in what we're supposed to be, the type of person we're supposed to be. And that type of person is somebody that dedicates their life to a company that really couldn't care less about them, and use all their money to buy things that aren't going to really help them. They're just going to make you feel better for a moment. And at the end of the day, they're not there to make your life better. They're there to make your life harder at the end of the day. Like I can drive my shit bag of a car just as many places as somebody with the most expensive car on earth, for the most part. I mean, I couldn't drive across the ocean, but what car can do that? I can still drive to work the same way. It's just people see my car and say, wow, that person doesn't have a lot of money. But why does that matter to me? I don't even know what they're thinking. I don't know what other people are thinking. So why would it matter if they think that I'm rich or poor? For them to know the real you, they're going to have to talk to you, and you can't buy a better personality. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. It's not. Yeah, I want to touch on a few other projects here. um, Really excited for that new Joji album that's coming up. I'll have to look and see what it's titled. Piss in the Wind. That opening track of the singles that he dropped, Pixelated Kisses, I thought was very very good sign for the rest of the project. I thought that song was very good indicator that he's pretty locked in. That track was very strong, I thought. If It Only Gets Better, I thought was a good shorter track. Well, it's not the quite the feat that Pixelated Kisses is. I thought it was a pretty good track. And then Past Won't Leave My Bed, I thought it was a pretty lovely track. very cathartic, and Joji's vocals are just not something that I have been able to forget throughout the years, and I've always held out hope that he could really use that voice to make a very strong record. I really liked Ballads 1 when that came out, but I felt like he was always kind of punching below his belt and making music that wasn't quite up to par with what he could make. I didn't really care for Nectar or Smithereens too much, so I'm really hoping this Piss in the Wind project can bring him back to form and what I know he can do as an artist. I really liked the Filthy Frank stuff, so to see him pivot to music was really nice for me. Just to see what's underneath all of that. Another project I want to touch on, the Pilot by Mavi. I thought was a very good album. A couple tracks I liked off of there were Triple Nickel with Mike and Typewriter with Kenny Mason. I've always thought Mavi was more again than a Earl Sweatshirt clone, which was another artist that had heavy comparisons to that after his Let the Sun Talk project came out, which I thought was a very good album. The comparisons, of course, were warranted. He did obviously take a lot of influence from Earl, but I felt like he did it in a way that was had a lot more energy in his voice. It was a lot less drained. It was a lot more angry, and I think that breathed a certain life into that project that made it stand out from just being an Earl Sweatshirt ripoff. But I will say the follow-up, Laughing So Hard It Hurts, I was not a huge fan of. But Shadowbox was another step in the right direction. That album had a few standout tracks like 20,000 Leagues, Open Waters, I'm So Tired. Maybe my favorite track off of that album, Drunk Prayer. Mavi's an artist I've always kept my eye on. I've always known that he was capable of delivering quality music and really like stepping up. And I'm glad to see that he is doing that. And a contemporary of his, Mike, I want to shout out Showbiz, which I haven't listened through all the way yet, but listened to the first few tracks, and it sounds very promising. And Mike's another artist that when I first heard him, and it was on the project May God Bless Your Hustle, and that was in 2017 when I first heard him. It felt like hearing Jay-Z for the first time. I can't lie. Just the way that he raps and the way that he writes is very refreshing to hear, especially with the like pseudo boom bap that a lot of people have been trying to do that kind of flops, at least for me. I think sounds kind of like trying to reinvigorate an era that I don't think needs to be reinvigorated if you're not going to make it better or new. So why try to go back to an old sound if you're not going to modernize it, at least in the sense that it's better than some of those projects? But I feel like Mike puts his own twist on it to make it fresh. So yeah, I want to shout out that new project. And my favorite project by him, War in My Pen. I really have always had a lot of hope that Mike could keep doing his thing. So it's good to see him still dropping quality and still doing his thing feels like when the music kind of zigs, he zags, and that's really nice to see. And I forget that Let God Sort Him Out came out this year. I will have to say I'm not a fan of that cover. I'm not a fan of the cover for this album, but the tracks are quality, of course. I mean, it's fucking Pusha T and Malice. It's gonna be quality with Pharrell production. It's just a recipe for success. So how can I really say much more than that? Every track is pretty strong. I don't think there's really a bad track on there. I'll say that some of the Pharrell hooks can be sound a little bit out of place, but it's fucking clips, man. It's it's one of the best albums of the year. I mean, not much else to say about it. Yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. Hope everybody has a nice Christmas, has a happy holidays, and hope everybody you know stays warm in these cold months. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week or week after, or the week after that, or the week after that, or the week after that. Peace.